Well, good afternoon. I'm so glad you are able to join in today for how to plan and rock out your 2023 year as a solopreneur. So we're going to talk a little bit about why planning is important, because it is, and a lot of us don't always take the time to plan and think about what it is we want to do. And there's a couple of reasons this happens. We kind of get in a habit of just doing everything we do for our business. We tend to focus on the tasks at hand that we do. Because a lot of us as solopreneurs, not only are we trying to market and grow our business, but we're actually working in the business. We're providing the service to our clients and customers. And let's be honest, that's why you got into the business you did. You didn't get into your business to market. But unfortunately, when you're a solopreneur, that's what you got to do. You have to market your business. So it's kind of like the second part of your job. So working on your clients and customers is important, but marketing is, yes, Rebecca, I'm glad you're able to join, because we all do this. I mean, I do the same thing too. We get into procrastinating. It's things we don't like, and it gets scary because you are, as they say, stepping out of your comfort zone. And we're going to talk a little bit about that a little later on in this, how to look at things a little bit differently. So when it comes to planning, probably the first thing you need to do is set aside some time to actually sit down with yourself and think about what it is you want to do. Yeah, maybe come up with some goals or objectives that you want. We don't tend to do that sometimes. We get so focused on everything else. So it's kind of best maybe to do this on a regular basis. Maybe once a week, once a month, definitely once a quarter. You want to make sure you're doing this. I tend to plan by quarter because, let's face it, marketing changes all the time. So to keep up with everything, it just works better for me to do it for the quarter. And that's what I do with my clients. I look at things kind of quarterly. So you want to set aside some time for it. And you don't have to do huge blocks. So here's what happens. You try to make a change. You're like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. And what do? We say, okay, I'm gonna block 2 hours every Monday that I can focus on my business. And then things get in the way. So what happens is because you try to do too big of a change at once. So do what's kind of a little bit beyond your comfort, just a little bit, expand that comfort zone. So if you're not doing any of this at all, set aside 15 minutes or even 10 minutes. Take it in smaller chunks because you'll actually make the changes easier if you do that. So do it in small chunks. Set aside a little bit of time to start thinking about your business. And then what you need to do, another thing you need to do, is once you've come up with an idea that you want to do with this, is you got to come up with effective to-do lists. And efficient. They got to be efficient too. So what do? Things pop into our head. Oh my God, I need to do this. And you write it down. Oh my God, I need to do that. Now, if you're like me, you got them on about 7 different slips of paper. And then you got to try to find those 7 slips of paper. And you're like, I wrote it somewhere. I know I wrote it somewhere. Luckily, I got a pretty decent memory, but I keep it in my head, and that's not good either. So what you want to do is get yourself a little notebook and maybe break down the tasks into categories. So if it's kind of marketing, a task you want to put it there. If it's a social media task, if it's you got a design graphic task, break them down into categories. It's kind of an easier way to do a list. Or you can prioritize the task. That's another way you can break them down. If it's something that's, that you need to do right away, you put that in one category. And if it's something that can be done later in the week, you can put that into another category. So we'll just recap a little bit here. So you want to set some time, to do some planning. And then when you have the idea in your head, what it is you want to do, then you got to do the to-do list to go along with it. And then another thing you want to do with all of this is you want to plan your goals out or think about your goals. Now, typical goal setting tells you that they got to be realistic and you got to put a timeline on them. And you've probably heard it 1.5 million times. Well, I don't tend to set goals quite that way because it doesn't always work. Because you got to hold yourself accountable to them. So when I write goals, I tend to write them in a way that at least it's kind of fun. You know, I mean, let's face it, if you set a goal that you're going to get 6 new customers in the next 6 months, how fun does that sound? You know what I mean? But if you kind of say, I'm going to meet 7 new and interesting people, now that sounds a lot more fun. So you want to kind of think about goals a little bit differently. And the other part I have about goal setting that I find is kind of interesting is they got to be realistic. Now, who's to say what's realistic? I don't know about you, but I tend to like to think big. And you know, some people will, boy, am I off my game today. Anyway, I like to use my imagination and think kind of big. And if you try to be realistic, it's actually rather limiting. You might be able to do more than what it is you're thinking, but you're like, ooh, I don't know. I only should do maybe I should only do 3 new customers because, you know, or meet 3 new interesting people because 7, ooh, that's a big number and it's kind of scary. Well, if your goals don't scare you, or if you don't know how to achieve them, then they're not the right goal. So you want to make sure your goals are big, that you don't know how to achieve them, and that they're fun. You want to, like I said, you want to make it fun. So that way you're more apt to achieve them. So to kind of help you with this planning and goal setting and stuff, I have a 7-day email challenge that's coming up. It's going to start on Sunday the 15th. It's absolutely free. If you aren't on my email list, you can just private message me or whatever, your email, and I'll get you on the list if you want to take this. Because it's broken down into 7 little easy chunks on how to do this. And then in each one, it gives you some tips and ideas on how to plan and set goals so that you have a really good year coming up. But it also gives you, on most of them, I think there's only one that doesn't, it gives you like 2 or 3 questions to ask yourself on this. So it's absolutely free. When you sign up, you'll get one a day. There'll be a link to the article that gives you some more information on how to do all this. And the article is maybe a 2-3 minute read. So, you know, it comes every day, but it doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but you should, because then you get in that habit. But it's a really easy way to start shifting your thinking on putting time into your business, but in a small enough chunk so that it's not overwhelming, because when it's too much and you get overwhelmed, you tend to not want to do it. And I don't blame you. I don't do that either. And then at the end of the month, on the 26th, on Zoom at 5 o'clock, we're going to do what's called a Simply Smart Roundtable. And the idea behind the roundtable is I'm going to pull all the information together from that 7-day email, and then we're going to brainstorm and mastermind with each other on the questions and the topics that were in that 7-day challenge as a way, 1, to reinforce it, and 2, everybody gets to help each other with this. So it's not just like a webinar where I sit there and talk and lecture or whatever, but it's a way of sharing information because, you know, person A could have an answer for person B that person C has never even heard of. So it's a way of networking and getting to meet some new people that you wouldn't have the opportunity to meet before. So again, if I don't have your email, make sure I get it. You can put it in a comment or private message me or whatever, and I'll be glad to add you to the email list. And this is kind of all free as a way to help local business owners and soulpreneurs have some resources so that they start to get comfortable with marketing their businesses. So that's what I got for you this week. Next week, I don't know. If there's something that you really struggle with and you want me to do one of these Facebook Live learnings on it, let me know. Put it in the comments or send me a private message or email, and I'd be happy to help you out with all that. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week, 12 o'clock, same bat channel, same bat time. Thanks for joining.